Oscar 519,000, discussion, maintaining 15,000, the channel altimeter 3017.
Hello everyone and welcome to FS Mania, and thank you for joining me as we continue this series featuring business jets available for flight simulator. We're here today in scenic Seattle, Washington at the Seattle-Tachoma International Airport preparing to fly Cessna's flagship business jet, the Citation X. On a quick side note, when we began our business jet series a couple of months ago, we planned to only feature the Phenom 100, the Citation Mustang, and the Citation X. However, Coronado recently released the Cessna S550 Citation II, so we added that jet to this series, and now it looks like Coronado will soon release the Hawker 850. So we certainly plan to feature the Hawker and any other new business jet as part of this series as they become available. I'm personally very pleased to see some new business jets in development for Flight Simulator. Our destination for today's flight is the Ketchikan International Airport in Ketchikan, Alaska. The Ketchikan scenery I'll be using today is Payware Scenery by Orbix. Ketchikan is the most southeastern city in Alaska. It is located 700 statute miles north of Seattle, Washington, and 235 statute miles south of Juneau, Alaska. Ketchikan has been nicknamed the salmon capital of the world, the rain capital of Alaska, and Alaska's first city. Ketchikan was incorporated in 1900 and at the 2010 census had a population of 8,050. Cruise ship tourism drives a large part of the local economy from May to September each year. Ketchikan International Airport, identifier Papa Alpha Kilo Tango, is just west of Ketchikan on the other side of the Tongass Narrows. Passengers must take a 7-minute ferry ride across the water to get to the airport from the town. Ketchikan International Airport covers an area of 2,600 acres at an elevation of 89 feet above sea level. It has one asphalt runway, paved, designated 11/29. It is 7,500 feet long by 150 feet wide. In 2011, the airport had 15,959 aircraft operations for an average of 43 per day. 61% of those were air taxi, 33% of them were scheduled commercial flights, and 5% general aviation. Now back to the Citation X. Built by the Cessna Aircraft Company in Wichita, Kansas, this is the flagship of Cessna's business jet line. It is a long-range, medium-sized business class jet, which according to Cessna, it is the world's fastest operative civilian jet with a top speed of Mach 0.92 at 41,000 feet. That is a blistering 706.5 miles per hour. This also makes it the fastest business jet in history. The aircraft incorporates a number of innovative design features. A very obvious characteristic is the highly swept wing with a supercritical airfoil, used in order to increase the critical Mach number and therefore the top speed. The horizontal and vertical stabilizers are also highly swept and are arranged in a T-tail configuration. The Cessna 10 is powered by two Rolls-Royce AE 3007C or C1 engines, each with 6,442 pounds of thrust for C models or 6,764 pounds of thrust for the C1s. They are pod mounted on the sides of the rear fuselage. The engine has solid titanium blades and a 3-stage low-pressure turbine. You may have already noticed the large diameter of the engine intakes. This feature, related to the high bypass ratio, approximately 5:1, reduces noise from the engines and improves fuel efficiency. Another first for Cessna is the inclusion of powered controls in the Citation X. The controls are powered by dual hydraulic systems for redundancy. There are 2 elevators and the tailplane is all moving for trim. The rudder is in 2 pieces. The lower portion is hydraulically powered and the upper portion is electrically powered. Each wing has 5 spoiler panels to be used for both roll control in addition to the ailerons and as speed brakes. Honeywell provides the avionics system for the glass cockpit. The Honeywell Primus 2000 avionics suite, which is composed of 5 7-inch by 8-inch CRT screens, dual Honeywell flight management systems with GPS, fully integrated autopilot/flight director, FADEC, LNAV and VNAV capability, calls or crew alerting warning system, ground proximity warning system, TCAS, traffic avoidance, and also the Honeywell Primus 2 integrated radio system with auto-tuning. The FMS is fully functional and supports an updatable Navigraph database. The Cessna 10 requires a crew of 2, will carry up to 12 passengers. It is 72 feet, 4 inches long, has a wingspan of 63 feet, 7 inches. The height is 19 feet, 2 inches, and the maximum takeoff weight is 35,700 pounds. Maximum speed is Mach 0.935. Cruise speed is 527 knots at 35,000 feet. And it has a range of 3,216 nautical miles and a service ceiling of 51,000 feet. Fuel capacity is 1,926 U.S. gallons or 12,904 pounds. In 2010, Cessna initiated a major update of the aircraft called the new Citation 10, which includes upgraded engines with new fans and Garmin G5000 flight displays with 3 14-inch screens and a head-up display. So, this is one extremely fast, well-equipped, and very luxurious business jet. So, climb aboard, buckle up, and let's go flying. And just a quick look at our route of flight. This is the big picture. You can see we are leaving Seattle, which is in the extreme northwest of the U.S., and flying to the northwest toward the southeastern most part of Alaska. And I'll zoom us in here for a closer look of our route, and there it is. And I can flip us over here to the high altitude en route chart, and you can see that we're actually going to be flying jet routes all the way. We're going to get on the jet route after our SID from Seattle at Erie intersection, which is located here, fly to the Tatoosh VOR, Jet 523, all the way up to Port Hardy VOR, and then Jet 502 all the way to Annette Island, and then I believe that's Jet 195 to Dwarf intersection, and then to Doozy, and then into Ketchikan. So that's our quick look at our route, and we'll take a look at our SID. And the SID we'll be using for today's flight is the Bangor 7 departure, which is basically an RNAV departure. We will program this into the FMS. We'll be departing from runway 16 left, and we'll be flying these fixes basically to bring us from a southward departure heading all around to a northwestern heading. And there's the Bangor fix that will then we'll use the Erie transition, which will bring us to this intersection here, which is on the jet route that we're taking. So nice and convenient. We'll have that all programmed in and let the FMS just fly us right around there, just as pretty as you please. And welcome aboard, and welcome to the cockpit. This is FS Mania's flight from Seattle to Ketchikan, Alaska, on the Citation 10, and we are cold and dark and getting ready to fire everything up. We've got our fuel loaded and we've done our external pre-flight, so we're just going to check a few things out. I can see our landing gear is down, circuit breakers on the left are in, and circuit breakers are on the right are in. You can see we have 5 CRTs for our display for our Honeywell Prodigy avionics suite, and we have 2 FMSs, and we have 2 Honeywell Primus R2 integrated radio systems down here, which I have come to really appreciate and like. So we're going to get things fired up, and first things first, let's jump in here and put some power on this baby. So there's a battery on the left and a battery on the right, battery 1, battery 2. Bring those on. We have some standby power for our standby power instruments. We have emergency lighting over here we want to cut on, and we have some panel lighting that we can cut on, and I've not found that these really have much effect, but procedurally, we'll cut them on, and hate it when that happens. Sometimes my little Ezdoc goes a little awry when I'm scrolling. There we go. Don't know why that is, but it does. And coming back over here, our cross tie's closed. Our avionics will bring on that one, and ignitions are in the normal position. Standby power is on, and the FADEC is in the normal position. Fuel boost is in the normal position, and our generators right and left are in the normal position, and fuel pumps over here are in the normal position. So basically everything normal, and avionics will bring those on. And then what we want to do is, so that we don't run our battery down here, we need to jump in here and get us some power with our APU. So I'm going to come over here and try to work around this yoke, and apologize if I cut through the model. It's a little tight quarters, but here is our APU control panel. So we want to cut on our master switch, and we can do a test to be sure everything's working. And let's cut off the generator, and the bleed air is off, and we're going to hold the start switch up until it energizes. We can see it spooling up. We can hear it spooling up. And we'll get a light up here that lets us know it's ready to load. There it is. We'll cut on the generator, and the bleed air is on. And probably I'm going to go ahead and cut on the pack so we can get a little bit of heat in here. It's 52 degrees. So let's come back out here where I can grab hold of that. This one's a little tricky. There's always one. There it is. There it is. Okay. So we got those on. There's our pressurization gauges with our cabin rate, and also the cabin altitude and differential pressure gauge. So all that's good, and let me get up here where I can see a little better. Lights, we'll get on some nav lights, and probably should have went ahead and cut on the beacon for starting that APU. I didn't. Anti-skid, let's bring that down to normal. Okay, so we got that. Let me just consult my checklist. Circuit breakers, yes. Cabin doors are closed. Seat belts are fastened and adjusted. Battery 1 and 2. Master caution lights not on, and nav lights and ground recognition are on. APU has been started, and avionics are started. So let's come down here and take a look at our radio unit here. And one thing that's pretty nice about this is that you can store some frequencies in here, which I have done. And I have the ATIS frequency right here, number 2, which is 118. So if I flip it up here, we'll get the ATIS at Seattle. Juliet. Sky conditions, clouds at 600. Temperature 2.9er. Altimeter 3004. ILS runway 16. Left ILS runway 16. Center visual runway 16. Right in use. Landing and departing runway 16. Left runway 16. Center runway 16. Right. Our aircraft in a direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact. You have Juliet. Seattle Airport information. And 1256. This is the clearance frequency. So we've got that. Now we can go ahead and initialize our position. We're going to use the GPS 1 position. for the FMS, so we'll load that in, and we'll go ahead and load it in, both of them. And then we want to slip back here and align the IRS units, so we're going to bring them up to the nav position, each one. And we can wait the 5 minutes that it takes, or we can just hit the test button on each one and we have instant alignment. So I sort of like doing that, and saves a little time. Now I realize it does say over here that the database is out of date, but it's not much out of date. I promise. I just updated this thing and it has just now gone out of date. We just clear that message out. We'll clear it out over here, and we can go ahead and start putting in our flight plan. So we'll hit our flight plan button. We've got our departure airport in there, Seattle, and we are flying to Ketchikan, identifier Papa Alpha Kilo Tango. So we'll put that in as our destination. And what we want to do is fly to the RE intersection, which is Alpha Romeo Romeo India Echo, and we're going to take a jetway. So I'm going to show you how to put the jetway in there. Actually, we're going to pick the jetway up there. So the jetway is Juliet 523, Jet 523. So we'll just put in J523. Now notice we have a decimal between the fix and the airway, and then we want to put in another decimal, and we want to put in the next where we get off of that airway, which is the what is that? VOR, Tatoosh VOR, weird name, Yankee Zulu Tango. So let's put that in, Yankee Zulu Tango, and now we can enter that right there. And it went ahead and populated. We have Airy in there, we have Tatoosh in there, and actually that's not Tatoosh. Yeah, that is Tatoosh. Yankee Zulu Tango is Port Hardy. So my mistake, that's Port Hardy. And then from there we want to actually take another airway, so we're going to start at Port Hardy. So I'm just going to click on it, put it in the scratch pad. Let's put a decimal in there, and let's put another jet route in there, and it is Jet 502. So we'll put that, and we're going to take that to the Annette Island VOR, and that's identifier Alpha November November. Put that in there, and we can enter it, and now we've got all those waypoints in there, all the way up to Ann. So then the next and final waypoint on that flight plan is the Dwarf intersection. So let's get over here and let's type it in. Delta Whiskey Alpha Romeo Foxtrot. Doesn't seem like it's politically correct named fix, but that's what it is, so we'll put that in there. And then finally we need to put in our destination, even though we've already done it here to close this flight plan. So let's just go ahead and put that back in, Papa Alpha Kilo Tango. There it is, and now we have a closed flight plan. So we're going to put a departure in here. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. We can come over here to the nav, and departure is right here. We're going to be taking off of 16 left. We're going to use the Bangor 7 departure, and Airy is our transition. We'll activate that. Now we can go to the performance initialization, and there's 5 pages, so we're just going to flip on over page 4, cruise altitude. Now we can leave the optimum in there, or we can put our own, and we're going to do that. We're going to put in flight level 400, which is what we have filed, and there it is. And then we'll go to the next page, and we need to put our fuel in. Now we can see we've got fuel here. Quantity, we have 2 wing tanks and a center tank, and total of 8,235 pounds. The FMS already knows that. We're just going to verify it and put it in there, and then do a confirmation. So that's good. Then we can go right into the takeoff initiation and initialization, and then we'll move over to we can put our winds in. I think they were, I made a note of them as I was listening to the ATIS, and they were 144 at 4, I believe. So we'll put those in, light winds. And that's pretty much all. We've got the temperature, outside temperature, which is 11 degrees Celsius. So our runway is dry. We can make it wet if it is in fact wet, but it's dry. And we're going to take off with 15 degrees flaps, so we can do 5. Actually, why don't we do 5 since we're light? We'll do 5. Now we can confirm, and that would put our V speeds for us. We hit V speeds here, come over to takeoff speeds, and we can go with manual or automatic. We're going to go with manual. There's our V speeds, and it populates them over here on our speed tape. All nice and handy. Everything works very well here with this. So I'm liking it. And let's go back then. Pretty much that's set up. All we need to do now is go back to our flight plan, and we'll have that up. On this one, we can put in our progress page. Maybe we'll start with here. It's showing 651 miles to Ketchikan. So that's all good. And let me check my checklist and see how we're doing. Okay, so we've got now would be a good time to call and get our clearance. So I've got clearance in there, and there's really something weird happening over here. Default scenery, Seattle, you know, not the greatest, but it's what we got. So what we're going to do is, let's call clearance up. Good morning, clearance. This is Citation 505 Echo Sierra. We are at the north ramp looking for IFR to Ketchikan. Citation 505 Echo Sierra, Seattle clearance. You are cleared to the Papa Alpha Kilo Tango Airport via the Bangor 7 departure. Then is filed. Climb and maintain 1000. Expect flight level 240 10 minutes after departure. Contact Seattle departure on 120.4, squawk 0316. Okay. Citation 505 Echo Sierra is cleared to the Ketchikan Airport via the Bangor 7 departure, then is filed. Climb and maintain 1000. Expect flight level 240 10 minutes after departure. Seattle departure 120.4 and the squawk 0316. Citation 5 Echo Sierra, readback is correct. Okay, so let's come down here and get our squawk code in. So we're going to return to radios. We're going to come right here, and we're going to tune our squawk, and the small knob will tune the last 2 numbers, and the big knob will tune the first 2. 0316. 16, there we go. We're in standby mode, so that's set up and ready to go. And we can go back to comm memory, and let's put in ground control right there. Ground control's in there. So yeah, if you fly the same route a lot, you can store quite a few. I forget how many. I think it's like 8 or 10 or 12 frequencies in here. You just keep on putting them in, and you can change them out. So yeah, pretty nice. Okay, we got our clearance, and we have set our altimeters. Let me go back to my checklist, and we got our FMS all set up. V speeds are taken care of. We do need to dial in our altitude that we're going to be, initial altitude, and there's fuel cutoffs for this are right down here. There's a click spot for them, so when we start it, we're going to need that. The altitude is right there. A little tough to get to it with those in the cutoff position. I think I might can adjust it. Here we go. So yeah, I'm looking up here. There it is, and adjusting way down here. It's just one of those things. You just have to do it. It's probably easier in the real world, I'm sure, but 11,000 was our initial altitude, and our initial heading, I can see right here through the yoke, and will be runway heading will be 160, so pretty much 180 degrees opposite of where we are. We'll go ahead and dial that in. There goes that Ezdoc again. Okay, coming on around, and along in there, 160, that looks pretty good. Okay, so we've got that set up on our, and let me just look in here. Our autopilot's good. Our V-speeds, let me return back here. And right now the range on the MFD was 2.5 miles, so we can change that. We'll do 12.5 miles. We can see most of the SID on there, and that looks good. PFD's got some setup things. We can change the command bars on the flight director, and that wasn't them. I want them on, I think. Yep, there it is, single Q or the little wings there. So single Q is just a little easier for me. And let's see, yeah, looks like we are just about ready for pushback. Just looking at the crew alerting system over here. And fuel boost on, left in, fuel boost on. Let me see. Normal. Okay, I guess that's for the APU. Alright, I think we are just about ready. We have a couple other things to check. One thing is our fuel, which we've already looked at. We have 8,200 pounds. Everything's balanced. Our oxygen is nice and full. And there is a test, rotary test, that Cessna likes to do. They've done it on, I think, the Citation S550. They did it. So here it is right here, and we can just flip it around. That's smoke detector, gear horn, and fire warning. Thrust reverse right there. You can see the 6 lights. The flap failure, we've got lights here, lights there. And windshield temperature, we've got alerts on the crew alerting, overspeed, and angle of attack. We should hear a stick shaker, and we don't see it, but we hear it. There it is. And then the annunciator, where everything's lit up and everything's tested there. Okay, so that pretty much, last thing to look at, hydraulics. And I meant to look right there. Hydraulics are low. Of course, we don't have our engines running, but we do have 3,000 psi for the rudder system. So all of that checks out. And one last thing. Let's see, I keep saying that, don't I? There's a lot to check. This is a 2-pilot airplane, by the way. We are flying single pilot today, but we have a very good FMS to help us out. The pressurization, let's just come take a look at that. We've got our packs on. We've got it set in the normal mode. Everything's in the normal mode. So the only thing really that we should have to do is just set our cruise altitude up at the flight level we're going to fly at, and then everything should work. We'll check it. Hoping that will work. And I think we're ready to call and get a pushback clearance. So we'll just call, let's see, we're on ground. Yep. Seattle ground, Citation 505 Echo Sierra is ready for pushback. Citation 5 Echo Sierra, pushback your discretion. Call me this frequency when ready to taxi. 5 Echo Sierra. So I'm going to use, hopefully, the local pushback guys to help us out here. us the clearance to start. I have not been able to find parking brakes on this airplane, so I'm sure they have them. Let's get in here where I can see into. I got to get to this click spot. There it is. And let's see if we got oil pressures rising. And we get a light. The ITT's coming up. And I believe we have a good light. Watch for our ignition to disengage. It did. And we'll go ahead on number 1. I see N1 rising, indicating ignition. And be ready for cut on the fuel. Let's add it. Oil pressure's up. ITT stabilizing. N1 stabilizing. Everything looks good. Let's close the cross tie, or open the cross tie. And we're going to leave the APU on. We'll cut on our pitot-static heat, left and right. If I can reach the other one, there we go. And we can go ahead and set flaps.
Flaps extended. Flaps
5 for takeoff. And our trims, we're going to look right here. And we'll set it on about 4 degrees. And now we just need him to quit pushing us back so we can finish our checklist. They're unlocking the gear, so I'm going to check the rudder, and I'm going to check the elevator. You can see the movement there, and the ailerons, you can see the movement. We have full range of movement. See, this guy's getting out of the way here. And pitot heat's on. Anti-skid switch has been put in the normal position. No anti-ice for a takeoff, and flaps and slats are set. Spoilers are retracted. Trim is set, and we are ready to get our taxi clearance. Let's get our taxi light on right there. Seattle ground, Citation 505 Echo Sierra, IFR to Ketchikan, ready to taxi. Citation 505 Echo Sierra, runway 16 left, taxi via Alpha. Via Alpha to 16 left for 5 Echo Sierra. Parking brake is released. And I see another plane heading out here, so I hope he's talking to ground. There's one taking off. Seattle's a busy airport.
Tower 3784, contact Shuttle Center 135.45.